Some men just want to watch the world burn.
You're traveling to another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination. Your next stop.
You walk into this room at your own risk, because it leads to the future. Not a future that will be, but one that might be. This is not a new world. It is simply an extension of what began in the old one. It has patterned itself after every dictator who has ever planted the ripping imprint of a boot on the pages of history since the beginning of time. It has refinements, technological advances, and a more sophisticated approach to the destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the superstates that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
Imagine, if you will, a country on rerun. Democracy, once high definition, now stuck on rabbit ear static. The channel knob, firmly in the grip of one man. He's not here to govern. He's here to reboot America like an old casino he bankrupted in the 90s. His name is Donald J. Trump. And tonight's broadcast comes from the darkest corner of syndication, the Twilight Zone. January 2025 opened like a bad sequel. Same villain, bigger budget cuts. The pen flew faster than tweets, undoing Biden-era rules like they were Sharpie doodles on an old napkin. By March, we had orders banning DEI programs, silencing climate initiatives, and renaming federal offices like he was playing SimCity with a grudge. He didn't just roll back regulations, he rewound the clock. Progress, he said, while tossing women's health rights into the shredder and calling it recycling. 200 executive orders in, America wasn't so much a country as a reality show spin-off. The Apprentice, Authoritarian Edition. And when the Bureau of Labor Statistics published job numbers he didn't like, fired. Just like that. Facts weren't facts, they were treason. When reality is an inconvenience, just fire reality. Classic Twilight Zone twist. Truth itself becomes the unemployed. The White House, once the People's House, was gutted and reborn as Mar-a-Lago North. The Rose Garden, jackhammered into a concrete pool deck. Imagine Jackie Kennedy's beloved greenery replaced with tiki torches and a cash bar. Lawn ornaments by Gucci, democracy by Home Depot. But the real makeover came with soldiers. Tanks parked in Lafayette Square, National Guard federalized like chess pawns. Humvees patrolling streets that hadn't seen violence in decades. Washington, D.C. didn't look like the capital anymore. It looked like Pyongyang on a golf cart budget. And the kicker? Crime was already at a 30-year low. He wasn't fighting criminals. He was fighting shadows, staging a Broadway production of Law & Order, Presidential Unit. No criminals in sight, just cameras rolling. In California, Governor Newsom shouted, "Unconstitutional," when Trump seized control of his National Guard. Lawsuits flew like confetti at a dictator's parade. It wasn't about safety. It was about control. Federalism is supposed to be a balancing act. Under Trump, it's more like WWE wrestling. The states get body slammed, the crowd cheers, and Trump walks off with the belt. Even if the script says otherwise. The Twilight Zone loves a rerun, especially one where the Constitution is the punchline. At the Museum of the Bible, Trump declared America a land of weekly prayer. God wants you at church, he boomed, though it sounded suspiciously like Trump wants you at a Trump-branded Bible study. Separation of church and state shattered like a stained glass window hit by a golf ball. Suddenly, civic duty wasn't voting, it was kneeling. Not to God, but to a politician wearing divine cosplay. Dark comedy alert. The founders escaped a king who claimed divine right. Now, 250 years later, we're back to kneeling at the altar of golden escalators. And this altar, built with taxpayer funds and cheap contractor labor. Then came the protests. Millions filled the streets for hands off and no King's Day. 5 million voices shouting, "We don't do monarchies." The sign said it all. No tyrants, no crowns, and Game of Thrones is not a policy manual. But here's the Twilight Zone punchline. Dictators don't fear numbers, they fear silence. Trump looked at the sea of humanity and shrugged, tweeting about crowd size like it was his inauguration all over again. In the zone, protest is catharsis, not change. A scream into the void, while the void tweets back. On the economy, Trump spun fairy tales about booming jobs, but the Bureau of Labor revised numbers down by nearly 1 million. It wasn't a boom, it was a bust in drag. When reality didn't match his script, he didn't fix the problem. He fired the statisticians. Imagine a chef burning dinner and banning thermometers so nobody could prove it was raw. That's not governance, that's gaslighting with spreadsheets. America became a casino again. The house always wins, and the dealer's wearing a red tie. Enter Act 3, The Epstein Files. A birthday scrapbook surfaces with Trump's signature and tasteless jokes. The White House screamed fake louder than a televangelist in a hurricane. The irony? This is a man whose entire career is built on conspiracy theories. But when the ink lands on his side of the ledger, suddenly it's all deep fakes and hoaxes. In the Twilight Zone, hypocrisy isn't a bug, it's the plot twist. Trump's big crime plan, Operation Midway Blitz, rolled out soldiers as if America was one bad episode of The Purge. But domestic violence, he dismissed it. A little fight with the wife. The laughter that followed wasn't funny. It was the sound of millions of women grinding their teeth into dust. And disasters, aid delayed for weeks. FEMA became a bureaucracy with stage fright, paralyzed while wildfires spread and hurricanes drowned towns. In the zone, even nature becomes the political enemy. The message, you're on your own, folks. Buy a boat or a bunker. Then, Trump renamed the Defense Department the Department of War.
We have the strongest military in the world. We have the greatest equipment in the world. We have the greatest manufacturers of equipment by far.
This name change is not just about renaming, it's about restoring. At your direction, Mr. President, the War Department is going to fight decisively, not endless conflicts. It's going to fight to win, not to lose. We're going to go on offense, not just on defense. Maximum lethality, not tepid legality. Violent effect, not politically correct. We're going to raise up warriors, not just defenders. So this War Department, Mr. President, just like America, is back. Thank you for your leadership and your clarity. We're going to set the tone for this country. America first, peace through strength, brought to you by the War Department.
It was honesty wrapped in hubris. Soldiers became props. Books were banned from military websites. and trans troops were expelled like yesterday's scapegoats. He branded diplomacy as weakness and sanctions as sport. Countries detaining Americans were slapped with wrongful detention labels, as though he'd just discovered diplomacy's settings menu. Here's the kicker. Even tyrants abroad didn't know whether to laugh or cheer. America had become a funhouse mirror of itself, a superpower with clown shoes. So what's left? Pardons for insurrectionists, Bibles for ballots, tanks for tourists, a president who doesn't just bend norms. He melts them down for scrap metal and sells them at Mar-a-Lago gift shops. This isn't governance, it's a demolition derby. The car crashes keep piling up, but the crowd keeps buying tickets. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the horror of our time, when democracy itself becomes a rerun and the ratings still go up. Welcome back, America. You've officially renewed your contract for another season of
The Twilight Zone. You're traveling to another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind.